I'm Jody Evans. I'm one of the co-founders of CODEPINK. And I just appreciate everyone's interest and desires to divest themselves from the war economy and invest themselves in a future of peace. And we know to do that, we need to break some habits and develop some new ones. I'm very excited to have our guest today, Sharon Abreu, who is going to give us some tips on ways we can practice into connectivity. So you can always check out more at codepink.org/peace economy to find out our 21 ways to divest and all the inspiration that we have for those that are investing themselves in the peace economy. One thing that I've seen from everyone is, first of all, in the peace economy, the giving, sharing, caring, thriving, relational, regenerative economy, that once you start entering in those practices, you're so surprised that how generous the world is, how kind people are. And, I just think that's always there. It's just we get in these practices that alienate us and make us believe in scarcity, and we miss the signs and we miss the nourishment. So I'd like to introduce you to Sharon, who was singing harmony by the age of 3. When she was 6, she learned Pete Seeger's song, If I Had a Hammer, and it sparked her passion for peace and social justice music of the 1960s. We also need to be making more of that music now. Sharon was studying singing in New York City when she joined the Hudson River Slope Clear Water Environmental Group and started learning about her drinking water. This led her to understand the relationship between politics, the environment, people's health, and inspired her to use her voice and songs to raise awareness. And at CODEPINK, music and songs and culture are core to how we get to peace. So welcome, Sharon.
Thanks so much, Jody. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today. I am so stoked.
Well,
Well, I
I wanted to start with my first question is, how do you see the value of the local peace economy work in this time in the planet? Now, you've been, singing songs from the 60s, so I kind of think local peace economy work arises out of the 60s. It's the feminist, it's the, what we were trying to create when we were hippies. So, how do you see this work right now?
Well, in our efforts to build local peace economies, it's extremely helpful to have ways that we know we can communicate with each other in a healthy way and resolve conflicts easily, and where everybody goes away feeling at the very least okay, if not really, really good. And so that's why I just feel so lucky to be exposed to the practice that I'm now certified to teach called the connection practice, which I learned locally on Whidbey Island, I live on Orcas Island in Washington State, and Whidbey Island is very close to us. And a friend of ours who I worked with on Dennis Kucinich's presidential campaign back in 2004, said, could you come and provide music for this course that's happening at the Whidbey Institute? And it's a 4-day foundations course, and you can provide music and you can take the course as part of your remuneration. And I thought, well, this sounds great. It's a way to teach peace and speak peace. And so we did the music for the course, my partner and I, and we were so impressed with it that we got certified to teach it. We took the course in 2011 and we got certified in 2012, and it's called the Connection Practice.
And so how do you see that relate to the local peace economy? Yes, connectivity is core to the local peace economy, and so is practice. So take us into, how that works.
Well, just to give you a little bit of background on the connection practice, and I want to keep it tied to the local peace economy because it provides multiple opportunities for learning, for teaching from no matter where you are. It's ideal to be able to do things together in person when we can't, and we have to do things remotely. We have actually excellent opportunities for doing that as well. And it's amazing. I think we're all learning how much we can connect, when we have to, using the internet. So I'm just finding how well that can work. Even by phone, you can connect deeply with people. But keeping things local, I know where I live is very important. I live in a small community. We have one grocery store, we have a food co-op, we have an energy cooperative, we have a lot of progressive people here. We also have some people here who vote for Trump. And most of the time, it doesn't come up. It's not an issue. We don't talk about it. It's that kind of conventional wisdom. You don't talk about religion or politics and you'll be fine. But we know that we need to be talking about these things. So how are we going to do that? If we don't talk about them, we can't say, I don't think that's actually true. Can I give you can I share something with you that I think offers another scenario or framework or whatever? So when you're talking with people in your community, it's really close. We're doing a lot of things together. We're serving our community in a lot of ways. We're on boards together, in clubs together. We sing together in groups, play together, in various ways. So to be able to say, wow, I really agree with you on this, but I'm having an issue with that, and I'd like to talk with you about it. But also, first and foremost, letting the person know, number one, that you're listening to them. That's the most important thing. How many of the tragic things happening in our world are happening because people do not feel heard? They don't feel that they matter. They don't feel respected. And even if we vehemently disagree with something they're doing or something they support, we're all functioning from our emotions, and I think it's so important to realize that our emotions just boom, they're just triggered right away. So how can we, I'm going to get into this a little more, but just keeping it local for a second, how can we communicate productively and constructively and compassionately with people in our own communities, so that we can trust each other more, when it does come to difficult things like politics, when we really need to be calling each other on misinformation or misunderstandings.
Well, take me through it. Like, should we have a place of disagreement between us that you can create connective tissue with?
Would you like me to give you an example from my own experience? I can do that if you'd like.
Please.
Okay, so a few years ago, I was on an airplane. I was on a 3-hour flight from Orange County, California to DC, or actually to Denver. It was a connecting flight. And the young man sitting next to me, I guess he was probably in his early 30s. I was in the window seat, he was in the aisle seat, and there was an empty seat in between us. That used to happen. Occasionally, very occasionally. But anyway, so we got to talking, and it turns out he's a church musician. He plays in a band in his church. It very quickly becomes clear that he is a Christian, fundamentalist Christian, very right wing, and he's got a lot of anger. He is so angry, not at me, but there's so much anger when he starts to talk to me that there are times he's actually leaning across that middle seat and he's right in my face. And so, I'm kind of holding myself and staying in my heart there and listening to what he has to say, and at times speaking and just letting him know that I really get what he's saying. I get why he's angry. And one of the things he was saying was, I have 2 children and I need to put them through college, and I shouldn't be paying for single mothers with 5 kids so that they can have health insurance. Well, I get it. I totally get it. But so I listened to this. I don't agree with him, but I understand where he's coming from. I totally get the stress that he's under.
Because he's coming from fear.
He's coming from fear, yeah. And he's working hard and he's under a lot of stress and he wants to see the best for his kids, and he's married and he didn't have kids out of wedlock, and, he's not a welfare mom, and, there's all these judgments going on. And, you could say some of those things to some degree are legitimate.
They're not.
But I have to,
They're
well, not,
by the
or
word.
not.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we can get into, the deeper scenario, and
that's the war economy creating
yes,
lies that then
I totally
make
agree.
people unhappy.
I totally agree with that. We don't have a support system, and we have systemic racism, and there's all this going on. But I was able to, after listening and giving him empathy, this is how I give him empathy, by letting him know that I hear what he's saying. I really get what he's going through. Then I was able to say, can I offer you a scenario from my personal experience that, kind of gives a different take on this. And I gave him the example of my niece who has multiple sclerosis. And she's married, she doesn't have children, but she needs to be on very expensive medication all the time. Well, she had worked for MCI WorldCom. You know what happened to MCI WorldCom? They went out of business. She lost her job and she lost her health insurance. And her husband was also dependent on her health insurance, so he lost his. And I said, because her because her health care was tied to her job, she lost her insurance and she could no longer afford the very expensive medication she needs to be okay to treat her MS. And that's why I feel like everyone should have universal health care, and it shouldn't be tied to your job so that you're in this precarious situation where if your job goes away, so does your health care. And look how much we're dealing with that now. And look how many people are under so much stress now because of this. So that's just one example. But, I could have, if I had been, I felt actually a little bit threatened in this situation. I really didn't feel like he was going to hit me or anything. But the energy he was coming at me with was really scary. So, to be able to go into my heart and do the connection practice, which is two pieces, two great techniques that work really well to support each other. If I wasn't able to do that, I might have gotten triggered in a way that said, flight attendant, get me another seat, or why don't you shut up? You're a horrible person, or whatever it is. You're wrong and you're bad. Whatever the things that we get triggered.
You could have said something like that's racist, and then trigger him even more.
Yeah, and I know people that do that, and it's really damaging because you're never going to connect with somebody when you do that, even if you're right. So that's the thing. Do we want to be right or do we want to connect with other people? It's not easy. It's a practice. And that's why we say, learn the connection practice, go out there and practice it. And
tell me, we don't know what we're practicing. What, what did you do inside of yourself in that moment?
Okay. Well, one thing is to pause. The pause is very, very essential. And you learn this in nonviolent communication, which is one piece of this. The connection practice takes the basics of nonviolent communication, which was developed by Marshall Rosenberg, and it takes the basics of the technique of heart-brain coherence developed by the Institute of Heart Math in California. And using these two practices to support each other is so powerful. Because you can use one without the other, but when you put them together, wow, it is more transformative than you could possibly imagine if you haven't experienced it. But that pause is so important. It's like, whoa, okay, I'm having my amygdala in my brain, which is trying always to protect me. It holds all the memories of every bad thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And when something happens that is triggering or scary to me, the amygdala goes, wait, danger, danger, warning, like the robot in Lost in Space. And it starts to try to match up what's happening now with what happened in the past. And the reaction is so quick, you don't have time to think about it. So this is part of the practice, is to catch yourself before you make that knee-jerk reaction and know that in that split second, you have a choice to make a different choice. Just go into your heart and go, whoa, okay, wait a minute, I'm not going to react yet. There are situations where you got to get the heck out of there. You will know, when that is. But if you can this really allows you to stand in your power and make a choice for yourself at that very moment. So that's part of the NVC piece. The nonviolent communication piece is we give empathy. Our motto with the connection practice is empathy plus insight equals connection. So the empathy piece is the nonviolent communication piece. We got to figure out what are the feelings and needs. What are mine? I got to give empathy for myself, because how am I going to be genuine and give empathy to another person if I don't know what's going on in me, if I'm not conscious of that?
So that's right at the place where you determine whether the fear needs to be acted on or whether you can stay present. So that's the empathy for yourself is, okay, I'm triggered. Do I stay in this moment or do I leave? And then you notice, well, there's nothing. I'm on a plane. I'm okay. He's not going to hit me. Like, okay, I'm okay. But witness, there was anger. And, listening is the first piece of the cultivating a local peace economy. is listening, because the war economy does not listen, because it is driven by that greed that can't hear or recognize anything. So yes, that's that space of pause, of listening, of taking in our surroundings. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, yes, so feelings and needs. What are my feelings? What are the needs underlying those feelings? Because those feelings are being caused by needs. If we have positive feelings, our needs are being met. If we have negative feelings, our needs are not being met. And we're seeing so many people in our society right now whose needs are not being met. They don't know how to connect with people who might be able to help with that. We don't know how to connect with them. And one of the most instructive things I've seen in recent history is Bernie Sanders, doing a town hall with Trump supporters and showing them respect and listening to them, and then being able to say, well, what if this could happen?
Mhm.
Would you support that? It was a beautiful example of how to connect with people. So our first piece is identifying our feelings and needs, getting to our main need, and identifying another person who we're in conflict with, respectfully guessing what their feelings and needs are. We're only guessing. We don't want to tell them what they're feeling or what they're needing because we don't really know. We're not in their head, but we want to respectfully guess and show that interest and help them to identify it. And then if we can get to their main need, that's wonderful because then we can work with that. So that's the feelings and needs piece. That's the nonviolent communication piece. Then the second piece is the heart brain coherence piece from the Institute of Heart Math in California. And they're doing wonderful things, by the way, with Global Coherence Project. You all may have heard of that. But the thing is that when you go into your own heart, what are you doing? You're getting out of your chattering brain, which is chattering at us all the time. And a lot of times when we're upset, we're like, I don't know what to do. And that's what we call being in a state of incoherence. So, what does it mean to get yourself into a state of coherence? Is when your heart and your brain are actually working in harmony with each other. And that's a physiological thing. And we can make that happen through this practice called heart brain coherence. The first three steps of that are called quick coherence. And you can do it very quickly. In fact, why don't we do that right now? I'm going to take you through a quick coherence. And it's 3 steps. There's a heart focus, heart breathing, and heart feeling of appreciation. So for the third step, you want to have something ready to go that you can bring into your heart center of your chest area, that as soon as you bring it in there, it fills you with a feeling of joy or appreciation. It can be a pet. It can be a starry sky or a beautiful sunset. You see, I've got a sunset from my house here behind me. I often use my cat. And even though she can be a little on the wild side, she is my coherence kitty. And every time I think of her, I just break out into a big smile. I can't help it. So it can be another person. Sometimes you want to be a little careful with that because if it's a person that you might have something triggering with you right now, you might want to choose someone else or grandchild or whatever is usually
So
works
what
really
it
well.
sounds like when I hear you talking about it is that something that triggers love inside of you, like right away.
Something that triggers love inside of you. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to lead you to heart focus, heart breathing. And then when we go into heart appreciation, bring into your heart that pick one thing for right now that's easy for you to appreciate. So here we go. I'm going to invite you to sit comfortably. And if it feels comfortable for you and it's safe, if you're driving, do not close your eyes. But if it's comfortable for you to close your eyes, I invite you to do that so we can go inside more deeply. If it doesn't feel safe to close your eyes, you can just kind of bring your gaze down and sort of just soften your focus a bit. And then, if it feels comfortable to you, you can put your hand over your heart center of your chest area. That just helps to bring the focus to that part of your body. And then we'll let the focus drop down. So let's go with that right now. Sit comfortably, close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And I invite you to put your hand over your heart center of your chest area if that's comfortable. And just let your energy drop now. Just drop down into your heart. Just let all that focus and energy drop way down into your heart now. And then let's breathe slowly and evenly, as though we're breathing into our hearts and out from our hearts. The slow, even breaths. And now let's bring in that feeling of appreciation, whatever that image is for you, right into your heart. Let that fill you with joy, appreciation, love. And just stay with that for a minute. Okay, that is the quick coherence. And believe it or not, I actually have a little song about it. It goes, heart focus, heart breathing, heart feeling of appreciation, heart focus, heart breathing, heart feeling of appreciation. That's the quick coherence, helps your heart and mind align.
Now, what's awesome about this, Sharon, is just how simple it is.
Yeah.
So here, when I was in it, it's just that reminder of the work we do with the local peace economy is that the war economy's constant effort is to keep us ungrounded and incoherent. Exactly what you said. Its goal is to keep us incoherent. And, some of the things you were talking about earlier, it's literally the culture it has created that we all suck at the tit of and think it's life, instead of having those moments where literally what I felt is you just connected us to life. And when we are connected to life, we can make good choices. And even when we're at that place, we can learn, because whatever happens, we can reflect and learn and iterate in ourselves or in whatever we're doing in the world. And I think we don't have enough opportunity to make the choices from that place. Too often they're set up to keep my job, to, if you talk about the insurance. So if your health insurance depends on you having a job, are you going to be able to be in coherence at your job? You're going to be in manipulation. You're going to be in incoherence, in anxiety. I mean, first of all, that will just create a constant condition of anxiety, which is what we say the war economy does. It creates lots of conditions for anxiety, and anxiety itself creates inflammation in the body that takes life, affects your life. So that's just a beautiful offering for so many things, and it's so simple. That's the other thing, is the war economy commodifies everything. And that so much we learn in doing the local peace economy is there's so much that can enrich our lives and even take them out of that place of fear and anger. That is exactly, I'm just curious, did you give the guy that practice when you were on the plane?
No, I didn't. But you know something? Sometimes it's better to not tell people that, and it's not like you're using the practice on them, which people, I've heard that people have done that with NVC. And that's why I think that the coherence is so important, in that it really gets you into a place where you are calm and centered and authentic. And it actually, you can use the NVC first and then the coherence, or vice versa. Like in that situation, it was important for me to just go right into my heart
So
and breathe.
yeah, let's talk about nonviolent communication being used against people. I think when because we're acculturated with these patterns of the war economy, that underneath it is the oppressive, destructive, extractive economy, that those habits can come out even with these tools. And so I appreciate that, where it's like, oh, I have a tool and I can bludgeon you with it. And that's, knowing what nonviolent communication is. And so I'm going to bludgeon you with that tool. And that's a beautiful thing to arise, that it's not about the tool. It's about all things can be used, for good or for self needs and
Yeah,
greed.
it's a matter of being conscious. It's a matter of being conscious about what your state is right now, being honest with yourself and being responsible in that way to whoever you think you're trying to help. You know, if I haven't done my own work, I might be, doing something passive aggressive and I might not be aware of it at all. It's not that I mean to be, but I might be doing that. I just came from something really crappy and I haven't had a chance to get snap out of it. I'm going to try to use NVC on this person. That's not what I want to do. I really want to connect with that person. And NVC, yes, it's its own language and it takes practice. And then when you're more skilled with it, you can go to street giraffe. And what that means is you can use more normal language with people, because it can be weird, like when we first started our course, and we did this with graduate students at the United Nations University for Peace in Costa Rica. From these kids were from all over the world, and they're very astute, and they're like, "This is really weird." Like, it was a 5-day course. It was a 5-day intensive thing. We were working with them, and they're like, "This is really weird. This language is just really weird," And by the 5th day, they were saying they brought the party. We were having a party. They brought the party to us by the 5th day when they had a chance to put the practice into action. And we were teaching this to them at the end of their school year. And they're like, we should have had this at the beginning of the school year because it would have helped us with our schoolwork. It would have helped us communicate with our fellow students. But
Well, I
even the
think
UN
that's,
University for Peace, it's
yeah.
it's all focused on peace building, but it didn't actually have a practice like this that it was teaching.
Right. And I think a lot what we're doing is playing at the edges of the tree limbs instead of really getting to the roots. And one of the things that we really want to be doing with the local peace economy is getting to the roots. And I think you just brought up another really important thing to remember, which is as soon as we start to break old habits and start new ones, it's super clumsy and feels really wrong. And, so how do we, know which, I always say it's like we feel upside down and we don't know which way's up. And so it's hard to know which to pick, like the old way or the new way, and to remember what the commitment was to for the new way, so that you can take yourself through that space of discomfort. I always say it's the birth canal of a new way.
Yeah.
And birthing is messy. And so that was, of course, when you start to take on new things, it's all a new language, because the body, the psyche, the heart, all of us, our histories are in another pattern, and these habits, these new habits are so important, and being able to offer practices that are not only simple, like what you just taught us, but I think, if someone works in the practice, don't they learn much more that helps it have a deeper,
Oh
um,
yes. Oh
more,
yes. And I encourage people to get in touch with me. I would love to do coachings. I offer a 5.5-hour intensive in the connection practice. I would love to share with people what more is involved with the connection practice and how it can be applied in our personal and professional lives. There's a mediation piece which I was able to use in practice and actually help a situation I was having with my own father, who I had a lot of conflicts with. But we say it's about connection, not perfection, right? So it's a practice. It requires practice.
it's
And I'm
life.
very happy to help with that.
Life is a practice. So tell me about your life. How are there tangible ways that your life has changed since you started the connection practice?
Oh, yeah. And, my relationships with people are so much better. I can talk with people that I disagree with in ways that I couldn't before. And it's not easy. I'm still practicing the practice. Sometimes I have to go away and process. I have my connection practice worksheet and I got to write it all out. And then I do my practice. Go through the feelings and needs, mine, the other person's. I go through the quick coherence. And then there's a fourth step. in that heart brain coherence practice, which is heart brain insight. After I get myself into that coherent state, I go and ask myself in my heart, center of my chest area, what do I need to know about this? And then I just wait for an answer, because the answer is not always boom right there. I can, most of the time, I can listen right there and take it in. I may not want to respond right away, but sometimes I just, sometimes I fall off the wagon and I go, blah, 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 and then I can come back later and say, you know what? It's okay to apologize. It's okay to take responsibility for not being my best self in that moment, and say, I really want to understand this. I want to understand you. If we don't prioritize the connection part of this, we're not going to be able to get past it to, the changes that we want to make.
Well, I think that was it right there. I mean, you're talking about things like taking time to connect. And if we're not connecting, I mean, it's the core of the local peace economy work. If we look out and we say that the war economy has destroyed the planet and it's created this great inequality, and so we have to be ready that if we can develop connective tissue in our communities, that is what will get us through whatever's going to be thrown at us. Right now it's a pandemic, but we don't know what the next thing is. The the structures have failed. The things that should have been there for us, like universal health care, like not privatizing water, like not having greed be what everyone celebrated for, instead having caring. COVID has pulled us back and let us reflect on what it is that creates the connectivity we want, what is essential to life. And it's not the war economy. It is not essential to life at all. It is actually destroying all of life. And this practice, which is like what we want to be able to offer people, is so valuable, because connectivity is how we make that fabric. We weave back the fabric of society, which has been ripped to shreds by the war economy. So Sharon, thank you for your commitment and for teaching us a little today. And how does everyone reach you?
Well, I can be reached by email at Charmuse, SHARM like Mary, U, S like Sam, E, at gmail.com. Or also, what's my official one? Connection Practice Coach. Right? That's Connection Practice Coach at gmail.com. That's my official email address, but you can get me at either one. And you can check out the Connection Practice online at connectionpractice.org. My website is connectionpracticecoach.com. And I would love to share this and get more deeply into it with a lot of people. We say, learn peace, speak peace, teach peace by our own actions and words.
So did you want to sing us out? Like, is there a song?
Oh, yeah, thank you for asking that. Well, Rita Marie Johnson, who I was going to talk about, she's the woman who actually put this practice together, having studied both of the essential pieces of it that complement each other so well. Rita Marie Johnson wrote a book, which I also highly recommend, called Completely Connected. And I wrote a song for the book launch we did back in 2015. So it goes, when we're completely connected, we're in tune with the song the world around is singing, and we feel that we belong. When we're completely connected, our hearts and minds align, and the world we and the words we say pave the way for trust and peace of mind. Pass it on, pass it on. Learn the art of connection. Pass it on. A simple practice, it's true, becomes a part of you. So enjoy the new view and pass it on. And it goes on like that.
That's fantastic. What a perfect way to end. Thank you so much, Sharon. That I felt. That was everything that you said in the music I felt. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just love CODEPINK. I've been active with CODEPINK for many years, and I really deeply appreciate this opportunity that you've given me to share the connection practice with more people.
Thank you. Onward to peace, everyone. Thanks
Onward
for
to peace.
joining us. See you
Onward
next
to
time.
peace. Yeah.